Shabbat shalom, peace and love. I'm a little late. I was supposed to do the book of Psalms, chapter 46 to 48, Thursday, but here I am catching up with it today. So the book of Psalms, we're going to be starting in the book of Psalms, chapter 40, 46 to 48. So the book of Psalms, chapter 46 to 48. Excuse me as I do all this. 46 to 48. Bear with me as I try to get through this. Y'all willing? We're going to go from the book of Psalms, chapter 46 to 48, then move into the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, and then the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4. So we're going to start in the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 1. Elohim is our refuge and strength, a help in distress, soon found. Verse 2. Therefore, we do not fear, though the earth reels and the mountains topple into the heart of the sea. So, this is where we need to be, where we're not fearing. We're not getting afraid of what's going on, the natural disasters happening around us. All this is it all, this is all this all has to happen. Everything that happens has to happen. You have to trust that the creator of, our surroundings, us and our surroundings, you know, this is what, this is what he's doing in order to carry out what needs to be done. Verse 3. Let its waters rage, foam, let mountains shake with its swelling. Salah. Verse 4. A river whose streams make glad the city of Elohim, the set apart dwelling of the mountain, the set apart dwelling of the Most High. Verse 5. Elohim is in her midst. She does not topple. Elohim does help her when morning turns. Verse 6. The nations shall rage, reigns shall topple. He shall give forth his voice, the earth melts. So this is what's to come. Like, this is Psalms. This is the book of Psalms. This is the Most High speaking through David, and this is the prophecies through David. He's speaking. These is speaking about David's future and the future of ours. And this is the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 6. It says, "The nations shall rage, reign. The nations shall rage, reigns meaning kingdoms shall topple. He shall give forth his voice. The earth melts. He should give forth his voice. The earth melts." Verse 7. Yahuwah of hosts is with us. The Elohim of Jacob is our refuge. Salah. Verse 8. Come, see the works of Yahuwah, the ruins he has wrought on the earth. Verse 9. Causing all fighting to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariot with fire. So this is clearly, what's to come in the future when the Most High, the only begotten Son of the Most High, returns. To put a stop to all that. It says, causing all fighting to cease until the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariot with fire. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 46, Verse 9. Verse 10. Be still and know that I am Elohim. I am exalted among nations. I am exalted in the earth. Verse 11. Yahuwah of hosts is with us. The Elohim of Jacob is our refuge. Elohim of Jacob is our refuge. Verse so yeah, we have to identify the Most High as, because the scriptures identify the Most High as the God of the Hebrews, the God of Jacob. Is you can't generalize the Most High. You know what I mean? And I know we tried to, but the scriptures makes it clear that you know who he's the God of. You know, I'm sorry, chapter 47, verse 1. Oh, clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to Elohim with a voice of singing. Here we go. So we see that it's biblical to clap your hands and get the singing and all that. That's biblical to do. We see this clearly in this verse in the book of Psalms, chapter 47, verse 1. It's just not making it all about that, not making it all about that. You have to follow his instructions. It's not about showing up one day of the week, you know. It's not about showing up one day of the week and clapping your hands and singing, you know. Even though this verse is saying this, it's oh, clap your hands, all you peoples, and shout to Elohim with a voice of singing. It's not all about that. And you have most who think, if they do that once a week, they're fine, they're in the clear. They can go back to, deliberately, you know, not following his instructions. Verse 2. For Yahuwah Most High is awesome, a great sovereign over all the earth. Yes, he is. Verse 3. He subdues peoples under us and nations under our feet. Verse 4. He chooses our inheritance for us, the excellence of Jacob, whom he loves. Whom he loves. He subdues people under us and nations under our feet. So when you follow his instructions and you obey his spiritual government, you obey his spiritual laws, you you do his commandments, you do his commands, which is all it is respecting others, respecting him. This is what comes with it. Verse 5. Elohim shall go up with a shout, Yahuwah with a voice of a shofar. Verse 6. Sing praises to Elohim, sing praises. Sing praises to our sovereign, sing praises. Verse 7. For Elohim is sovereign of all the earth. Sing praises with understanding. Verse 8. Elohim shall reign over the nations. Elohim shall sit on his set apart throne. Verse 9. Nobles of peoples shall be gathered together. The people of the Elohim of Abraham, for the shields of the earth belong to Elohim. He shall be greatly exalted. He shall be greatly exalted. Chapter 48. Chapter 48, verse 1. Great is Yahuwah, and greatly to be praised in the city of our Elohim, his set apart mountain. Verse 2, beautiful on high. Beautiful on high. The joy of all the earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great sovereign. Verse 3, Elohim is in her citadel. He is known as her refuge. Verse 4, for look, the sovereigns met, they passed by together. Verse 5, they saw, so they marveled. They were alarmed, they hastened away. Verse 6, trembling took hold of them there, pain as of a woman in labor. Verse 7, with an east wind you break the ships of Tarshish. Verse 8, as we have heard, so we have seen in the city of Yahuwah of hosts, in the city of our Elohim. Elohim establishes her forever. Verse 9, we have thought, O Elohim, of your loving commitment in the midst of your heckle. And the heckle is a temple. Verse 10, according to your name, O Elohim, so is your praise to the ends of the earth. Your right hand is filled with righteousness. Verse 11, let Mount Zion rejoice. Let the daughters of Yehudah exult because of your right ruling. Verse 12, walk about Zion and go all around her. Count her towers. Verse 13, excuse me. See your heart upon her rampart. See your heart upon her rampart. Go through her citadels, so that you report it to the coming generation. Verse 14, for this Elohim is our Elohim, forever and ever. He himself leads us even to death. That was the completion of the book of Psalms. Now we're going to get into the book of Proverbs. Book of Proverbs, chapter 18. Bear with me as I try to get through this, y'all willing. The book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 1. The separatist seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound wisdom. So the separatist seeks his own desire. The separatist is the one who separates himself from everyone, who's the eyeball, always going against the grain, always going against what everyone, is doing. Sometimes that's good. A lot of times it's, it's on the wrong end and for the wrong reasons. And this is what this verse is breaking down when it's on the wrong end and for the wrong reasons. When someone is, just opposing everything and everybody, it says he breaks out against all sound wisdom. So he's against what is spiritually wise, and like he's like opposing that and rebelling against it. He or she rebels against this. And this is what it has to say. It says, the separatist seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound wisdom, all sound judgment, all sound wisdom. Like everybody's telling you this is this, Everyone is trying to express to you spiritual wisdom, how this is spiritually wise, and you just, want to be worldly foolish. Verse 2, a fool does not delight in understanding, but in uncovering his own heart. So this is how this person is. They're only into, they like hearing themselves talk. They only into what they have to say and what they see. You know, fool does not delight in understanding another person or understanding someone who opposed them. A fool doesn't, a fool does not delight in trying to understand others. They only want to understand themselves and their own take and you know, their own thought, leaning on their own understanding. They only want, rely on their own information. A fool's It says a fool does not delight in understanding others. So you have to understand others. That way you can determine if what you're saying and what you're doing is wrong, and you can test it through your experience. You can put it through the test through, you know, um, if it's true or not, and if it's consistent, it's corroborated and supported by, other resources. You have to do that in order, and this is how you understand others. But fools don't want to do that. Fools don't want to understand others. Fools don't want to go through the research, and research for themselves, and try to understand what it is someone is, presenting to them. Fools don't want to. So they're all about uncovering their own heart. What I mean is uncovering their own, like basically sharing their own thoughts with you, sharing their own understanding with you, and sharing their own way with you. They're not into understanding your way, understanding why your way. It's best to understand everyone's way, and understand everyone's position. That way you may be able to better explain to them how their position is, where their position started, who created their position, the position that they're taking, the understanding, and the, what they're doing, and the practice that they're, practicing. It's best to know that, so you can help them understand what it is that they may not understand, they may not even be aware of, they may not even know. But you're bringing it to their attention that, this started, in this year, in this time of history. This is who presented this. This is where you know it originated. And you can explain to them, the origins of their practice and their understanding, and their approach, and you know their position. And that's what's important to understand. That's what it's important to understand others. But if you're not trying to understand others, you're making yourself a fool. You make a fool out of yourself. Because it's like y'all get what I'm saying. Verse 3, when a wrong one comes, scorn comes too, and with shame comes reproach. So when a wrong one comes, scorn comes too. When a wrong one comes, here comes mocking. Here comes making fun of others. Here comes drama. Here comes, all kinds of rumors, and, backbiting and all that. Slander. When a wrong one comes, scorn comes too. And with shame comes reproach. With shame comes correction. When you are put to shame, you're eventually corrected. You have either correct yourself, or someone's going to correct you. Most most definitely, the Most High is going to correct you. That's who he's going to, that's the one that's going to be sending someone to correct you and put you in your place and have you, reevaluate what you did, what you're doing. Verse 4, the words of a man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a flowing stream. Verse 5, it is not good to show partiality to the wrong, or to turn aside the righteous in right ruling. So it's not good to play both sides, as far as like, on the good and the bad. Like you gotta you gotta stand for one thing. You can't it's cool to understand both things, but you have to stand for righteousness, or you have to stand for fairness, you have to stand for truth, you have to stand for you know, what is written. You have to stand for what is commanded. You have to stand for what is instructed. You have to stand for what was demonstrated by the only begotten Son. You have to stand for what was left then as an example by the only begotten Son of God. You have to stand for that. That has to trump all, over all tradition, over all wrong, over all what you believe is, right in your eyes, in the eyes of your flesh. No, there's no getting an eye for an eye and all that. Like, so yeah, it is not good to show partiality to the wrong, or to turn aside the righteous in right ruling. So you can't be on the side of the wrong, and like if your friend is wrong, you have to let them know that they're wrong. You know, if your friend is wrong, you gotta let 'em- you can't say that they right just because they're your friend. If they're wrong, let them know they're wrong. You got to tell them that they wrong and explain where they went wrong and explain how they're wrong. But most, people give their friends passes because they're their friends, and justify what their friends done even though it was wrong. That's not cool. Says it is not good to show partiality to the wrong, or to turn aside the righteous in right ruling. So you have to demonstrate right ruling at all times. You have to yeah, demonstrate fairness at all times. Verse 6. A fool's lips enter into strife, and the mouth, I'm sorry, a fool's lips enter into strife, and his mouth calls for blows. This is what a fool does. He talks himself into, someone wanting to punch on him, he or she. This is what a fool does. It's their lips that enters into strife, enter into drama. They talk themselves into drama, which leads to, someone wanting to bring blows to their mouth, to pretty much put hands on them. This is the mouth of a fool. Talks themselves into getting punched on. Talks themselves into all kinds of drama. Verse 7, a fool's mouth is his ruin, and his lips are the snare of his life. Same thing. A fool's life is if is a fool's mouth is his ruin. A person, can talk themselves into their own ruin. Person can talk themselves into, a trap of their life, losing their freedom, talk themselves into prison, you know? Verse 8, the words of a slanderer are like delicacies, and they go down into the inner parts of the heart. This, the words of a slanderer, when people hear slander and backbiting and rumor, it people eat that stuff up. People want to know why it was said. People want to know the backstory. People want to know, who they're talking about, why they're saying this about them. It's really addictive to the human, it's addictive to us to get the scoop, get the tea, to get the, to get the backstory of why this person is being slandered, or why this person is being called this. Why they call him that? Or what did he or she do? I want to know. Tell me. Everybody wants to get the tea. And this is clearly what the book of Proverbs chapter 18 verse 8 is describing. The words of a slanderer are like delicacies, and they go down into the inner parts of the heart. We eat that stuff up. We eat rumors up. We eat stories of and slander of people. We eat all that stuff up. Everybody want to know why this person is being slandered, and why, is it true? Is it true what they say about him? Is it true what they say about her? Everybody eats this stuff up. So the Proverbs is true. The book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 8. The words of a slanderer are like delicacies, and they go down into the inner parts of the heart. Rumors and slander is like delicacies to us. We're addicted to it. We love the tea. We love to know people's business. We love to know, why the drama, and why people are at each other's throats. Verse uh verse 9. Also, he who is slack in his work is a brother of a master destroyer. So if you slack in your work, meaning if you're a lazy person, you're a brother of a destroyer, a master destroyer. It's like, y'all, it's two peas in a pod. Like, it's you're a brother of a master destroyer, meaning like y'all just no good, because one, she'll tell the other like, yo, we ain't doing lazy. We're not gonna be lazy. We gotta work hard. But yet, if you're lazy, then it's likely your brother or sister is just, just as a burden, just as much a burden as you are, just as much as a liability as you are, you know? So that's what it says. He who is slack in his work is a brother of a master destroyer. Verse 10. The name of Yahuwah is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. So the name of Yahuwah is a strong tower. So I choose to, you know, simplify things by identifying his name as Yah, as in hallelujah, hallel Yah, like praise Yah, like you can't go wrong with Yah. So that's my strong tower. Yah is my strong tower. And those who run to Yah, the name of Yah, those who run to the name of Yah, are safe. Those, it says, the righteous run into it and are safe. The name of Yah, the name of Yahuwah is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. Notice it say the righteous. The righteous run into it and are safe, because the righteous are the ones who follow who does his commands. We know that the righteous are those who does his commands. If you're not doing his commands, you're not the righteous. You're not considered the righteous. You can't run to his. You're not thinking to run to you know, his name as a strong tower, because if you know, you're not doing his commands, it's most like you're not honoring his name. You're not. You're likely bringing his name to nothing, because part of his commands is tells us not to bring his name to nothing, not to bring his name to naught. And those who don't follow his command, those who don't do his commands, are not doing that. They're bringing they're actually bringing his name to nothing by saying that it can be any name. It can just be in, it can be anybody, any name. Verse 11, the rich man's wealth is his strong city, and like a high wall in his own imagination. So the rich man's wealth is their defense. This is how everyone who's rich and who claims to have these assets and have this wealth and have this account, they feel like that's their strong tower. The rich man's wealth is his strong city. And like a high wall in his own imagination, like a high wall in their imagination, they can't be touched because they have money. They can afford to put themselves in places, where they feel safe. This is what rich people do. They set themselves up in neighborhoods, in places where they feel safe. And this is what makes them feel this is what makes them feel protected in their imagination. But in all actuality, you're not safe from the creator. The creator can cause a natural, you know, occurrence within your area and, and get to you if he needs to. Whether it's an earthquake, whether it's a, hurricane, tornado, most high can get to you if he needs, if he need to get to you. You know? Uh Verse 12, before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty, and before esteem is humility. So before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty. Before destruction, you're rushing. Rushing leads to destruction. Rushing into something leads to destruction. Rushing to do something leads to destruction. Rushing your words, rushing your actions, rushing your decisions, it all leads to destruction. Most likely, in most cases. So it says, before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty. Haughty is rushing. Haughty is moving quick, moving fast, without thinking. And before esteem is humility. Before esteem, before being glorified, before being honored, being given the glory, is humility. Is you're humble. You have to show yourself and demonstrate yourself to be a humble person. Everyone loves a humble person. Everyone respects a humble person. Everyone gives honor and respect and glorifies a humble person. When you're humble and when you have every reason to be egotistic, or you have every position, you're in position to be arrogant, you in position to be, egotistic, you have to be in position to be, really conceited and all that, but you choosing to be humble, you choose to be humble and humble yourself. People respect that, people honor that, people glorify that. At least they should. That's what the scriptures say. Verse 13, he who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. So when you answer, like when you already made your decision on someone or something before even hearing a person speak, before even hearing a person's story, before you judging a book basically by its cover. You judging a situation by, the face, like basically what's on the surface. And you not before you even hear who a person is, before you even hear what a situation is about, you're already making your decision. You're already making your mind up about something and someone, and that's foolish. That's foolish. It says, he who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. That's what makes a behind out of yourself. You make a behind out of yourself when you don't, you know, when you assume. When you assume, you make a behind out of yourself because you assume that this was this, or you assume that this person was this way. You assume by how they look or what people told you. You assume, you know, that that's how they are, or that's what that situation is, instead of investigating and researching and getting to know a person yourself, or asking questions. You know what I mean? Simply asking go a long way. Simply listening can go a long way. You know? Uh Verse 14. The spirit of a man sustains him in sickness, but who does bear a broken spirit? So the spirit of a man sustains him in sickness, meaning the spirit, the God-given spirit of a man that's within this vessel. The God-given spirit of a man that's in within this vessel that has demonstrated, you know, uh, following the instructions of God, demonstrated doing the commands of God, demonstrated obeying the spiritual laws of God and obeying the spiritual government of God. That's what activates the spirit within you, and that can sustain the flesh, sustain the vessel that it's in. The spirit of a man sustains him in sickness. So if the body is sick, the spirit, you know, eventually, if it's a good spirit, if it's in good spirits, if you've activated it through following the instructions of God, you can heal itself, you can heal yourself. The spirit can heal the body, through that. You know, and that comes with fasting, that comes with, eating clean, that comes with, resting, like on resting on the seventh day, fasting, like the scriptures teaches us to do. The only begotten Son of God, you know talks about prayer and fasting. It says, the spirit of a man sustains him in sickness, but who does bear a broken spirit? So, who does bear a broken spirit? When your spirit is broken, that means at some point you stop following instructions. That's when your spirit breaks. When you stop following instructions, you stop doing his commands, you stop obeying his spiritual government, you stop obeying his spiritual law, you stop uh you stop following the teachings of his only begotten son, because the teachings of the only begotten son assures you that you are fine in what you need to do and what you need to focus on and what you need to be locked in on. The only begotten Son of God, the teachings of the only begotten Son of God teaches us to lock in on the spirit realm, teaches us to lock in on the spirit, in the spirit future. So it teaches us not to be concerned. The only begotten Son of God teaches us not to be concerned with our flesh and with the fleshes around us, because it's temper. They have we have the flesh has expiration date. What's made for the flesh was made by the flesh. What the flesh itself has expiration date. So, and that's what brings stress, that's what brings a broken spirit when you're concerned with the flesh, the things of the flesh. When you're concerned with other flesh, the matters of the flesh, what's made for the flesh was made for the flesh, was made by the flesh itself. All of that is what breaks your spirit, you know? Like meaning stresses you out, leaves you depressed, and you know, that's that's not what that's not where we want to be. That's not a strong spirit. A strong spirit is above the flesh, is above the matters of the flesh. I know it's tough to even like try to break down, but it's if you got to know the lessons and the teachings of the only begotten Son to know what I'm talking about. Verse 15: the heart of the understanding one gets knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. Simple as that. Verse 16: a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. This is what gifts do. This is what bribes do. This is what rich people do all day, all week, all year, around, all month around. They bribe. They bribe. They get themselves in places that, you know, they want to be. They bribe to get things done that they want done. These gifts, bribes, gifts, all the same. A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. Yeah, sounds familiar. Verse 17: the first to state his own case seems right until another comes and examines him. That's usually how it happens. Someone's telling this story, but one who was there comes along and say, "No, it didn't happen that way. I was there. I witnessed it. That's a lie." Or they come and corroborate and verify what it is that you're saying. But usually there's a witness to say, "I was there. You're making this up. It didn't happen that way." Verse 18: the lot settles disputes and separates between the mighty. So the lot was used like a lottery, like you people took like sticks, and whoever ended up with the longest stick or the shortest stick or whatever, this is what determined you know certain disagreements and challenging decisions. Verse 19: a brother transgressed against is a strong city, and contentious are like the bars of a citadel. A brother transgressed against is a strong city, and contentions are like the bars of a citadel. So this is a person that's been wronged, a person that's been crossed, a person that's been betrayed. A person that's been betrayed you know, is a strong city. You can't stop this person from trying to get even or trying to get revenge or trying to get their get back or try to get, you know, their lick back. When a person feels betrayed, it's no stopping them, and this is what makes them a strong city in themselves. You know, when a person is betrayed, they're gonna, they're on a whole nother level. I mean, as far as you know motivation and determination, they're someone like that is coming for you, you in trouble. Someone you betrayed is coming for you, they it's hard to stop that. It's hard to stop a person, looking for someone who betrayed them. Verse 20, a man's stomach is satisfied from the fruit of his mouth. He is satisfied with the increase of his lips. When you're speaking what needs to be said, or you're speaking smoothly and speaking clearly and speaking intelligent, articulate. This is pleasing. This is satisfying. To the one who speaks. You know, it says a man's stomach is satisfied from the fruit of his mouth. And that also plays along with saying what is right, staying away from slander, staying away from false witnessing, gossip, staying away from lying to others and lying on others and lying about yourself and lying about others. Staying away from that. And this is what also brings, it says, this is what satisfies, said a man's stomach is satisfied from the fruit of his mouth. So, saying what is right and doing your best to say what is right and what needs to be said, this is what feeds you. This is what satisfies you. Verse 21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those loving it eat its fruit. So those loving it up, eat it up. Those loving, people hear people's business, hear gossip. Those loving to hear the tea, hear the scoop, hear everything, that happened. This is what we all, crave. And people eat it up. Know someone else's business. Verse 22, he who has found a wife has found good and receives favor from Yahuwah. Hey, man, it's tough to find a good woman. It's tough to find a wife. It's tough to find a woman worthy enough to make your wife. Is very tough, especially in times like these, especially in the culture, in a Western culture. Very, very difficult to find someone you can trust, you can rely on, someone you can, that's worthy to give, to give that title to give that, trust, to put that trust in. Yeah, slim pickings, slim pickings for a wife. So it says, he who has found a wife has found good and receives favor from Yahuwah. So it's a favor from Yah. It's a favor from the Most High when you when you are when you find a wife. Excuse me. When you find a wife, it's a favor from the Most High. You receive, you have found what is good. And even just because you call someone your wife doesn't make them good, as long or all wives aren't good for their husbands. All wives aren't good to their husbands. So that's why I say that. It says, he who found a wife has found good. He who found a a, a good woman that the Most High considers a wife, and that's someone who is good, that's good. You know, not all women deserve to be wives. Not all women should be wives. Not all women, you know, are worth that, because you have most women caught up in the world, caught up in the ways of the world, and are looking to, really leave you, leave you broken up. You know what I'm saying? So it says, "He who has found a wife has found good," and that's in the eyes of the Most High. That's that's determined by if she, trusts in the Most High, follows the instructions of the Most High, strive to learn and do the commands of the Most High. It's a lot with that, man. She has self-respect. She respects others. She respects her parents. She respects herself. She respects others. She respects her community. She has integrity. That's most important. You know, the integrity. So yeah, not everyone, not every woman who's someone's wife is a good is good, and is a favor from God. They're only a favor from God if you know, they're God fearing women. Verse 23. The poor speaks beseechingly, but the rich answers fiercely. Verse 24. A man of many friends might come to ruin, but there is a loving one who sticks closer than a brother. So a man who has many friends may come to ruin because their many friends, going to use them up, use all that they have, use all their resources, use all those many friends are going to use use that, use them up until they can't use them no more, you know. But there is a loving one who sticks closer than a brother. Some people have friends who are closer to them than their brother, their own brother. You know, it happens. It's like that. And I get it. Me, I'm a solo dolo kind of guy. I don't have those friends. I thought I had those kind of friends in the past, but I realized that they were just around me to come up. They were around me to, you know, for the benefit. It wasn't they weren't around me because they truly wanted to be my friend, or were my friend. It was all about come up. So I get it. So this is why I stay to myself nowadays. Like, you know, no, that completes the chapter of the book of Proverbs. And now we're going to get into the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 4, verse 1. Then I looked again at all the oppression that is done under the sun, and see, the tears of the oppressed, but they have no comforter, and power on the side of their oppressors, but they have no comforter. So, yeah, this is what Solomon is observing, how, you know, those who are oppressed have no one to comfort them. At the time, they had no one to comfort them. You know, this is before. This is before the only begotten Son of God came along. This is before he came along and gave gave himself as the ultimate sacrifice, and explain how he will send a comforter. So this is what Solomon is observing. It says, and see, The tears of the oppressed, he see the tears of the oppressed, but they have no comforter. And the power on the side of their oppressors, the power on the side of their oppressors, but they have no comfort. Verse 3, therefore I commend the dead who were already dead more than the living who are still alive. Why is that? It says, verse 3, and better than both is he who has never existed, who has not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. So it's all about, what you've seen that you can't unsee. Solomon is like making a judgment of all who seen something that they can't unsee, heard something that they can't unhear, you know, maybe hurtful words, seen and experienced, felt things that they can't unfeel, done things that they can't undo. And this is the evil of the world, like it says, that he's explaining how, you know, it's better to never has have been to never has have existed than to have existed and experienced what you have to experience and go through what you had to go through. And he's saying it's better the dead than the living because the dead no longer have to go through it. This is him venting at the time. This is Solomon venting and pretty much emptying out, his thoughts and his feelings and his take on life in the flesh. Life in the flesh, is at his in the time of in his time, which I get it. It's almost like that. It's almost hard not to view it this way now, even after the only begotten Son gave himself as the ultimate sacrifice and explained to us how he would send a comforter. But verse 4, it says, and I saw that all the toil and skill of the work bring evil between man and his neighbor. That too is futile and feeding on wind. So he's acknowledging how people, go their whole lives working hard to further themselves in a career, make a career for themselves, and make a living for themselves and make a life for themselves and start a family and start to enjoy the fruits of their labor. All that does is bring envy between your neighbor. All that does is bring envy between your your uh your brother and your sisters. That's all it does, and this is all he's pointing out. This is what he's pointing out. How just success brings envy. Success breeds envy. And that's what this is basically saying. You work hard, you make people envious of you. You know, you progress and you succeed, you make people envy of you. Make people envy you. It's just no getting around it. Verse 5, the fool folds his hands and consumes his own flesh. This is what the fools do. Fools basically like their own this what this is saying is, you know, you bring trouble on yourself. You self-destruct. This is what fools do. You know, they self-destruct. They bring everything on themselves. Verse 6, better is a hand filled with rest than both hands filled with toil and feeding on wind. So it's better to be resting, man. Take time to rest, man. Take the time that was set that was, instructed by God to rest, which is the seventh day. Take this time, like today, to rest. It's better. It says better is a hand filled with rest than both hands filled with toil, working constantly. Both hands toiling. It's feeding on wind. Now, you have to labor. 6 days you labor, the seventh you rest. So you don't want to be resting on the days that you should be laboring, on the 6 days that you should be laboring. But on the seventh day, you want to make sure you get you some rest. I know I did. Verse 7, then I looked again at futility under the sun. Even though it doesn't seem like I got rest because I'm yawning, don't mind me. Like I got it, I got some rest. I can, I'm probably going to get some more after I'm reading, you know, because it's the seventh day. It's the day of rest. And I gotta get that. I need that. Verse 8, there is one without a second, who has neither son nor brother, and there is no end to all his labor. His eyes also is not satisfied with riches. And for whom am I toiling and depriving myself of good? That too is futility and an evil task. You have folks who have no one to share the fruits of their labor with. You have folks who are working, who have made, you know, all this money and making all this money. They have no one to share it with, no one to leave it to. They don't even have family. They don't have no one to leave it to. They don't have no one to spend it on or invest it in. And that's futile. That's futility. It's an evil task. Is what, how Solomon sees it. And I can see it that way as well. You don't have a son, you don't have a brother, you don't have a children, you don't have no one to leave it. You know, the fruits of your labor to. Verse 9, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. Two are better than one. Finding a life partner is better than being by yourself. Finding a life partner that you can do life with is better than being by yourself. It's a blessing to find one. I don't have one, but when I find one, I'm blessed because both of you can tackle life. Both of you can tackle this life, and you need help tackling this life. You need help tackling this life. You can't do it on your own. You can't do this life on your own. It's better to have a life partner you can trust to do life with, one you could trust to, you know, to have your back and to not turn on you, to not betray you, to not, you know, use you and leave you. That's a life partner that you can trust, and it has to be mutual. The traction has to be mutual. The the principles, the views have to be mutual because, if you're making money, they're making money, you're able to make it easier for yourselves. You make it easier for yourselves in all things. In living expenses, life expenses, like food, shelter, you know, traveling. This makes it much easier to manage when you have a life partner. So this is what this is saying in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 4. verse 9, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. Two incomes is better than one income. Two incomes are better than one income. Verse 10, for if they fall, one lifts his companion up. If one doesn't have it, his companion has it. If one doesn't have it, his companion has it. If one doesn't have it, her companion has it. If one it falls, their companion helps them up. Their life partner helps them up. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Woe to them who are alone. Woe to me alone. Like, trust me, I know it's a woe to be alone. You know what I mean? So you don't want to be alone, you know, you don't want to be alone. You wanna find you a life partner. You know what I mean? You wanna find you a life partner. I don't even know what's going on, but whatever. Yeah, you wanna find you a life partner and do life with, tackle life with, you know what I mean? And make things easier for yourselves and you know, doing so. One hand washes the other, one back, you know, one watches the other back, one back watches the other, you know what I'm saying. Verse 11. Also, if two lie down together, they keep warm. But how does one keep warm by himself? How does one keep warm by himself? Yeah, blanket, but doesn't get any warmer than, body heat. And that what is that, what's that word? Uh Oxytocin. That oxytocin that you get when you lay down with someone, that's also beneficial, you know? Yeah, man. Yeah. Uh Verse 12, although one might be overpowered, two withstand him, and a threefold cord is not readily broken. So this is when, if two bring another into the world and, yeah, even if two, yeah, basically saying a mom, a dad, and a child is, is hard to break that cord. That's a family that's going to, survive off of, you know, what they bring in, what they reap and what they are able to bring to the table and protect themselves as well. Says, although one might be overpowered, two withstand him, and a threefold cord is not readily broken. So one is good, one, might be overpowered when you by yourself, but two withstands, and three is not readily broken. Verse 13, a poor and a wise youth is better than an old and foolish sovereign who no longer knows how to take warning. We have a lot of those, people who it's time to wrap it up. It's time for them to, you know, retire, but can't, you can't tell them that, or they're not trying to hear it. They don't believe it, you know. They no longer know how to take warning. take advice, make wise decisions. Verse 14, for he comes out of prison to be sovereign, although in his reign he was born poor. So this is, the next one's up. The next young men that's up, coming up. That's, their turn is next. Verse 15, I have seen all the living who walk under the sun. They were with the second youth who stands in his place. Verse 16, there was no end of all the people, all whom all of whom he headed. But the ones who come afterward do not rejoice in him, for that too is futile and feeding on wind. That too is futile and feeding on wind. No, like there is no end. It says there was no end of all the people, all of whom he headed, but the ones who comes after do not rejoice in him. This is the next generation not having respect for the present generation or the prior generation or the prior great men and women. They don't. This generation have no connection to them, no recollection, no memory of them. So you can't respect someone you don't remember. You wasn't there to witness. You didn't see. You didn't meet. You didn't see them rise to greatness. You didn't see the great things that they do. So explains why a lot of people in the past are getting disrespected by this generation. People who were before us are disrespected by this generation. You know, Solomon seen it, man. He's seen all of this. This is like common spiritual knowledge, spiritual wisdom, spiritual understanding. And that completes the reading for now. I'm gonna log off and log back in. I'm gonna get off live and get back on live, but I'm gonna get back on live reading the book of Genesis. Reading the book of Genesis. And y'all willing, you're able to, you know, you're able to pull back up. But yeah, if not, stay blessed. Y'all blessed. I'm gonna bless us out according to the blessing that was given to the book, that was given to Moses to bless the people in the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verse 23 to 26. Receive your blessing. May Yahuwah bless you and barak you. May Yahuwah guard you. May Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. May Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Peace, love, Shabbat Shalom. Like I said, I'm going to be getting back on live, reading the book of Genesis. No, not Genesis, the book of Exodus. Sorry, the book of Exodus. Yeah, peace, love, Shabbat Shalom, peace and love.